He was a young billionaire who had everything: money, fame, and power. But what he didn't have was humility. Then one rainy night, he gave his jacket to a beggar, and what followed shocked everyone. How did a simple act of kindness turn into the miracle that saved his life? Sit back and find out as we delve into this touching story. Once upon a time in the busy city of Lagos, there lived a young man named Damian. He was 32 years old, the son of a wealthy real estate mogul. From the very day he turned 18, he had refused to depend on his father's wealth. He built his own company brick by 30. He was already one of Nigeria's youngest billionaires. His investment firm, Reese Holdings, controlled properties, stocks, and businesses across West Africa. People looked at him and believed he had everything. But success had changed Damian. He walked with pride. He spoke with arrogance. He looked down on those who had less. His wealth had built a wall around his heart. At business meetings, he would cut people off mid-sentence. When his workers made mistakes, he fired them without second thoughts. His girlfriend, Michelle, had left him 6 months earlier because she said his heart had turned to stone. "Damian, you only love money now," she had told him the day she walked away. "You don't see people anymore. You only see profit." He had laughed at her words. "If people want my respect, let them work for it like I did," he had replied coldly. Michelle had shaken her head, tears in her eyes. "One day, you will lose everything. And when that happens, you will remember my words." She had walked out, leaving him alone in his mansion. Damian had poured himself a glass of wine and whispered, "She will regret leaving me. They all will." One cold rainy evening, Damian sat in the back seat of his black Range Rover. His driver Joseph was taking him home from a business meeting. The rain poured heavily against the windows. Thunder roared in the distance. Damian stared at his phone, scrolling through reports and numbers. His mind was always on business, always on more money. As the car slowed at a traffic light, Damian glanced out the window. There, under a broken zinc shelter by the roadside, sat an old man. He was shivering. His clothes were torn and soaked. His hands were wrapped around his body, trying to fight the cold. His face was wrinkled with age and suffering. Damian stared at him for a moment. Something stirred inside his chest. It was faint, like a whisper he had forgotten how to hear. Joseph noticed his boss looking. He said quietly, "Sir, the rain is too much. That old man will catch cold tonight." Damian said nothing. He looked away, back to his phone. But the image of the old man stayed in his mind. The car began to move again. Then suddenly, Damian spoke. "Stop the car." Joseph was surprised. "Sir?" "I said stop the car," Damian repeated firmly. Joseph pulled over to the side of the road. Damian opened the door and stepped out into the rain. His expensive Italian shoes touched the wet road. His designer suit began to soak. He walked toward the old man, his footsteps slow and heavy. The old man looked up. His eyes were tired but kind. He did not beg. He did not speak. He just watched. Damian stood in front of him, without a word. He pulled off his jacket. It was a custom-made wool jacket worth over 200,000 naira. He stretched it toward the old man. "Take this," Damian said softly. The old man blinked in shock. "Sir, why?" Damian swallowed for the first time in years. He did not have an answer based on profit or strategy. He just whispered, "Because it is cold." The old man slowly reached out and took the jacket. His hands trembled as he wrapped it around his shoulders. Tears filled his eyes. "God bless you, my son," the old man said, his voice shaking. "May this kindness return to you when you need it most." Damian nodded, then turned and walked back to his car. He entered, soaking wet. Joseph stared at him in disbelief but said nothing. The car drove off into the night. Damian leaned his head back against the seat. His chest felt tight. He whispered to himself, "Why did I do that?" Joseph glanced at him through the rearview mirror. "Sir, that was very kind of you." Damian shook his head. "I don't know what came over me. Maybe," Joseph said gently, "it was your heart speaking." Damian said nothing more. He did not know it yet, but that one decision would change his life forever. Weeks passed. Damian returned to his normal life. Meetings, deals, contracts. He had forgotten about the old man in the jacket. His mind was once again filled with business and ambition. But then, everything began to fall apart. It started with a phone call. One of his business partners, a man named Chief Adeyemi, called him late at night. His voice was cold and sharp. "Damian," the man said slowly. "I want out of the deal." Damian sat up quickly. "What do you mean you want out?" "We signed a contract." "I don't care about the contract," Chief Adeyemi replied. "I've heard things about you." "Things I don't like. I'm pulling my investment." "What things?" Damian's voice rose. "What are you talking about?" But the line went dead. Damian stared at the phone, his heart pounding. The next morning, 2 more partners called. They said the same thing. They were pulling out. No explanation, no discussion. Within days, rumors began to spread across Lagos. False accusations, lies about fraud, lies about stolen funds. Someone was spreading poison about Damian's name, and he didn't know who. His company's stock began to fall. Clients canceled contracts. Banks refused loans. Investors turned their backs. In less than 2 months, Reese Holdings was bleeding money. Damian fought hard. He hired lawyers. He held press conferences. He tried to prove his innocence. But the damage was done. The media tore him apart. Headlines called him a thief, a fraud, a man who had built his empire on lies. One morning, Damian sat in his office reading the newspapers. Every front page carried his face with terrible words written beneath. He threw the papers across the room and shouted, "This is not true. None of this is true." But no one was listening. One afternoon, Damian's secretary, a young woman named Abigail, knocked on his office door. Her eyes were red from crying. "Sir," she said quietly, "I'm sorry, but I have to resign. My family is telling me to leave before the company collapses completely." Damian looked at her, his face empty. "I understand you can go." She hesitated at the door. "Sir, for what it's worth, I never believed the rumors." "I know you are a good man." Damian's voice was cold. "If you knew I was a good man, you would stay." Abigail lowered her head. "I'm sorry, sir." She turned and left. Damian sat alone in the silence. He whispered, "Everyone is leaving me." One evening, Damian sat alone in his office. The room was dark. His phone had stopped ringing. His workers had stopped coming. The building felt like a tomb. He whispered to himself, "How did this happen? I built everything with my own hands. I was honest. I worked hard. Why is this happening to me?" Tears filled his eyes. For the first time in his life, Damian felt truly alone. His father called him that night. The conversation was short and painful. "Damian," his father said coldly, "you have brought shame to this family. Until you clear your name, do not come to my house." "But Dad," Damian's voice broke, "I didn't do anything wrong. You know me. You know I would never steal." His father sighed heavily. "What I know is that your name is in every newspaper. My friends are asking me questions I cannot answer. Stay away until this is over." The line went dead. Damian stared at the phone in his hand. Even his own blood had abandoned him. He walked to the window and looked out at the city lights. Lagos was beautiful at night, but tonight it felt like a prison. He whispered, "God, if you are listening, help me understand why this is happening." A week later, the final blow came. The government froze his accounts. They said they were investigating him for corruption. Damian knew it was a lie, but he had no power to fight anymore. Everything was gone: his company, his cars, his mansion, his name. Damian packed a small bag with a few clothes. He looked around his bedroom one last time. The expensive furniture, the designer clothes, the awards on the wall. All of it meant nothing now. Joseph came to see him before he left. The driver stood at the door, his eyes filled with sadness. "Sir," Joseph said quietly, "where will you go?" Damian shook his head. "I don't know, away from here." "Somewhere I can think." Joseph reached into his pocket and pulled out some money. "Sir, please take this. It is not much, but it will help you." Damian looked at the money. Then at Joseph. Tears filled his eyes. "You still believe in me?" Joseph nodded. Yes, sir. I have worked for you for 5 years. I know your heart. This will pass. Damian took the money and hugged Joseph tightly. Thank you. You are a good man. Late that night, Damian left Lagos. He took a bus heading toward the rural villages in the south. He did not know where he was going. He just knew he could not stay. The bus rattled along rough roads. Damian sat by the window, staring at the dark fields passing by. His face was tired. His eyes were empty. He whispered, God, if you are real, help me. I have nothing left. After hours of travel, the bus stopped in a small village called Ogadi. It was quiet, simple, nothing like the city Damian knew. He stepped down with his bag and stood in the middle of the dusty road. An old woman selling roasted corn looked at him. Are you lost, sir? She asked gently. Damian nodded slowly. Yes. I think I am, she smiled. There is a small guest house down that road. The owner is a kind man. He will help you. Damian thanked her and walked in the direction she pointed. As he moved through the village, children ran past him laughing. Women carried water on their heads. Men sat under trees talking. Life here was slow, peaceful. He found the guest house. It was a small building with faded paint. He knocked on the door. A young woman opened it. Her name was Lauren. She had a calm face and gentle eyes. Good evening, sir, she said politely. Do you need a place to stay? Damian nodded. Yes, but I don't have much money. Lauren smiled. Don't worry, we will manage. Come in. She led him to a small room with a bed, a chair and a window. It was simple but clean. Damian sat on the bed and placed his head in his hands. Lauren stood at the door. Sir, are you okay? Damian looked up at her. His voice was broken. I lost everything. My business, my name, my life. I came here because I had nowhere else to go. Lauren's face softened. She stepped closer. Sir, in this village, we believe that when a man loses everything, it means God is preparing him for something greater. Rest tonight, tomorrow is a new day. She left quietly, closing the door behind her. Damian lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Tears rolled down his face. He whispered, I don't know what to do anymore. The next morning, Damian woke to the sound of children laughing. He looked out the window and saw a small school across the road. It was made of old wood and zinc sheets. Children in torn uniforms were sitting under a tree, writing on pieces of paper. Damian stepped outside. The air was fresh, the sun was warm. He walked slowly toward the school. As he got closer, he saw a man standing in front of the children. The man was teaching them how to read. His voice was calm and patient. The children listened carefully. Damian stopped. His heart froze. It was the old man, the beggar he had given his jacket to months ago, but he was no longer dressed in rags. He wore simple clothes, clean and neat. His face looked stronger. His eyes were clear and bright. Damian stood speechless, staring. The old man looked up. Their eyes met for a moment. Neither of them moved. Then the old man smiled. A warm, knowing smile. He walked toward Damian slowly. The children continued their lesson behind him. Good morning, my son, the old man said gently. Damian's voice shook. I remember you. You were by the roadside in the rain. I gave you my jacket, the old man nodded. Yes. And I told you that your kindness would return to you when you needed it most. Damian's chest tightened. But how are you here? What happened to you? The old man gestured toward the school. Come, sit with me. Let me tell you my story. They sat on a wooden bench under a mango tree. The old man began to speak. My name is Reese, he said quietly. 20 years ago, I was a teacher in Lagos. I had a wife, I had children. I had a good life, but then my wife fell sick. I spent everything I had trying to save her. I sold my house, I sold my land. I borrowed money I could not repay. In the end, she died. And I was left with nothing. Damian listened, his heart heavy. Reese continued. My children blame me for their mother's death. They said I should have taken her to better hospitals. They turned their backs on me, one by one. They stopped answering my calls. They moved on with their lives and forgot about me. I became a beggar. I lived on the streets for years. People walked past me like I was invisible. Some threw coins at me, others insulted me. I lost my dignity, I lost my hope, but I never lost my faith. He paused, looking at Damian. Then one rainy night, a young man stopped his car. He stepped out into the rain and gave me his jacket. He did not know me, he did not ask my name. He just gave that night. I prayed for him. I said, God, bless this man. Let his kindness return to him one day. Damian's eyes filled with tears. Reese smiled. A few weeks after that night, an old friend found me. He had heard I was on the streets. His name was Pastor Emmanuel. He brought me here to this village. He gave me a small house and asked me to teach the children. I agreed. I had nothing else to give but knowledge. So I started this school. It is small, but it is filled with love. Damian shook his head slowly. I thought you were just a beggar, but you are a teacher. A man of honor. Reese placed his hand on Damian's shoulder. My son, we are all beggars at some point in life. Some beg for money, others beg for mercy. You gave me mercy that night. Now, let me give it back to you. Damian broke down. He covered his face with his hands and wept. I lost everything. My name is ruined. I have no money, no future. I don't know what to do. Reese held him gently. You have something more valuable than money. You have a kind heart. That is what will rebuild you. In the days that followed, Reese invited Damian to stay in the village. He introduced him to the community. Damian began helping at the school. He taught the children mathematics and business. He fixed broken desks. He painted the walls. He fetched water for the classrooms. At first, Damian felt ashamed. He, a former billionaire, was now doing manual labor in a village. His hands, which once signed million-naira contracts, now carried buckets of water. His feet, which once wore Italian shoes, now walked barefoot on dusty roads. But slowly, something began to change inside him. He started to smile again. He started to laugh with the children. He started to feel human again. One little boy named Samuel would follow Damian everywhere. The child was 7 years old with bright eyes and a curious mind. Mr. Damian, Samuel asked one afternoon, why do you look sad sometimes? Damian knelt down to the boy's level. Because I made mistakes, Samuel. And now I'm paying for them. Samuel tilted his head. But Teacher Reese says everyone makes mistakes. He says what matters is if we learn from them. Damian smiled, ruffling the boy's hair. Teacher Reese is a very wise man. One afternoon, a young woman named Abigail came to the school. She was the same secretary who had resigned from his company months ago. When she saw Damian, her eyes widened in shock. Mr. Damian? She whispered. Damian turned, equally surprised. Abigail? What are you doing here? She smiled softly. This is my home village. I came back after I left the company. I'm now a nurse at the clinic nearby. They sat together under the mango tree. Abigail spoke gently. Sir, I heard what happened after I left. The company completely shut down. Many of the workers lost their jobs. I felt terrible for leaving you when you needed support the most. Damian shook his head. You did what you had to do. I don't blame you. She paused, then added, Sir, the truth is coming out in Lagos. Some journalists are investigating Chief Adeni. They believe he was the one who framed you. One of his former employees is ready to testify. Damian's heart skipped. What? Abigail nodded. Yes, sir, the man's name is Marcus. He worked closely with Chief Adeni and saw everything. He has documents, recordings, everything. People are beginning to believe in your innocence. Damian closed his eyes. Hope flickered inside him, but he was afraid to hold it. Even if the truth comes out, I don't know if I can go back to that life. Abigail looked at him carefully. Sir, you have changed. I can see it in your eyes. You are not the same man I worked for. Damian smiled sadly. That man was blind. He could not see what truly mattered. Weeks turned into months. Damian's heart began to heal. He no longer thought about his lost empire every moment. He thought about the children. He thought about the village. He thought about how much joy he found in helping others. One Saturday, the village held a small celebration. It was the birthday of the village chief's daughter. Everyone gathered in the town square. There was music, dancing, and food. Lauren found Damian sitting alone under a tree, watching the celebration. "Why are you not dancing, Mr. Damian?" she asked with a smile. Damian laughed. "I don't know how to dance like this." Lauren stretched out her hand. "Come, I will teach you." Damian hesitated. Then took her hand. They joined the others. And soon Damian was laughing and moving to the music, for the first time in months. He felt truly free as the sun began to set. Reese called everyone together. He stood in the center of the square and raised his hand. "My people," he said loudly. "Today, I want to thank God for bringing someone special to our village. His name is Damian. When he came here, he was broken. But he did not complain. He worked with us. He taught our children. He became one of us. Let us give him our blessing." The entire village clapped and cheered. Damian stood, tears streaming down his face. He had never felt so loved. One evening, Reese and Damian sat together under the mango tree. The sun was setting. The sky was painted orange and pink. Reese said quietly, "My son, do you remember why you gave me your jacket that night?" Damian thought for a moment, then he whispered, "I don't know. Something inside me just moved." Reese smiled. "That was God speaking to your heart. You were not kind because you wanted something in return. You were kind because it was right. That is true wealth." Damian nodded slowly. Tears filled his eyes again. "I thought I had everything. But I was empty. Now I have nothing, but I feel full." Reese placed his hand on Damian's shoulder. "You are ready now." "Ready for what?" Damian asked. "Ready to go back." A few days later, a car pulled into the village. A man stepped out. It was Joseph, Damian's former driver. He ran toward Damian, his face filled with relief. "Sir, I've been looking for you everywhere." Damian stood, surprised. "Joseph? How did you find me?" Joseph smiled, breathing heavily. "Sir, I never stopped believing in you. After you disappeared, I kept searching. I asked every village. I showed your photo to hundreds of people, and finally, someone in the next town told me you were here." He handed Damian a folder. "Sir, the truth came out. The man who spread the lies about you was arrested. It was Chief Adami. He wanted to destroy you so he could take over your company and your contracts. But one of his workers, a man named Marcus, confessed everything. He went to the police with documents and recorded conversations. The government has cleared your name. Your accounts have been unfrozen. Everything is waiting for you." Damian stared at the folder, his hands shaking. He opened it slowly. Inside were official documents, court papers. A letter from the government apologizing for the investigation. Newspaper articles with headlines that read, "Damian innocent. Chief Adami arrested for fraud." Joseph continued, his voice excited. "Sir, the newspapers are calling you a victim of sabotage. People are demanding justice. Your clients want you back. Your company can rise again." Tears rolled down Damian's face. He looked at Reese. The old man smiled gently and nodded. Damian turned back to Joseph. "Tell them I'm coming, but this time, I'm coming back as a different man." Joseph smiled widely. "Sir, there is something else. Miss Michelle has been calling my phone every day. She wants to speak with you. She said she is sorry for leaving and wants to see you." Damian's heart tightened. "Michelle?" Joseph nodded. "Yes, sir. She never stopped believing in you. Even when everyone else did." That evening, the whole village gathered to say goodbye to Damian. The children sang songs. The women cooked food. The men prayed for his journey. Little Samuel ran to Damian and hugged his leg. "Will you come back, Mr. Damian?" Damian knelt down and hugged the boy tightly. "Yes, Samuel. I promise I will come back." Lauren came forward and hugged him. "Thank you for helping us," she said softly. Damian shook his head. "No. Thank you for helping me." Abigail stood beside Reese, smiling. "Go and rebuild, Mr. Damian. But don't forget us." "I will never forget," Damian whispered. Reese walked Damian to the car. Before Damian entered, Reese held both his hands. "My son," Reese said, his voice thick with emotion. "Remember what you learned here, money will come and go. But a kind heart lasts forever." Damian nodded. Unable to speak, he hugged Reese tightly. Then entered the car, as Joseph drove away. Damian looked back at the village one last time. Everyone was waving, he whispered. "This place saved my life." Months later, Damian returned to Lagos, but he did not return alone. He brought Reese with him together. They started a foundation called the Second Chance Project. It provided education, housing, and job training for people who had lost everything just like Damian once had. Damian rebuilt his company, but this time, he built it on humility and service. He hired people others had rejected. He invested in communities others had forgotten. He opened branches in rural areas, creating jobs where there were none. He reached out to Michelle, his ex-girlfriend they met at a quiet cafe. "Damian," she said, looking at him carefully. "You look different." He smiled. "I am different." She reached across the table and took his hand. "I never stopped thinking about you when I heard what happened. I knew you were innocent. I wanted to help, but I didn't know where you were." Damian squeezed her hand. "You were right about me. I had become cold, heartless. But I'm not that man anymore." Michelle smiled, tears in her eyes. "I can see that, and I'm proud of you." They talked for hours. She told him she had heard everything. She apologized for leaving. "No," Damian said gently. "You were right. I had lost myself, but I found myself again, slowly." They rebuilt their relationship this time. On a foundation of honesty and respect, Damian also reunited with his father. The old man came to his new office one afternoon. "Son," his father said, his voice breaking. "I was wrong to turn my back on you. I should have believed in you." Damian hugged him. "It's okay, Dad. I understand you were protecting the family name." His father shook his head. "A father should protect his son first." "I failed you." Damian smiled. "You didn't fail me. You gave me the strength to stand on my own, and every year." On the anniversary of that rainy night, Damian returned to the village of Ogadi. He sat with the children under the mango tree. He told them his story. He reminded them that true wealth is not found in money, but in the kindness we give to others. The school was expanded, new classrooms were built. Teachers were hired, books were provided. Damian made sure every child in that village received quality education. One evening, as Damian and Reese sat together watching the sunset, Damian said softly, "You saved my life." Reese shook his head. "No, my son. You saved your own life the night you gave me your jacket. You just didn't know it yet." They both smiled, watching the light fade into the evening sky. Proof that when you give without expecting anything in return, life gives back to you in ways you never imagined in the end. This story reminds us that kindness is never wasted. Damian's life fell apart, but it was rebuilt by the very man he had once helped. True wealth is not measured by how much we have, but by how much we give, and sometimes, the person we help today becomes the person who saves us tomorrow. Now I would love to hear from you. What lesson did you learn from this story? Please share your thoughts in the comment section below. I always enjoy reading your comments. There's another very interesting story coming up in a few days, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. So make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on your notification bell so you'll be the first to know when I upload the next story. If you enjoyed this one, please hit the like button. Share it with your friends and family. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, stay kind and stay humble.